Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we go to the Texas Panhandle, following some devastating wildfires to capture documentary interviews. These were very quick. Packing light was essential for this trip. Everything had to fit in the back seat of a truck. The theme of this shoot was content over perfection, so we couldn't tweak too much. We had to make sure we could get the content, and we had to be very efficient. Here's some context of what these ranchers have to deal with. Let's dive into one of our setups. We have the Aperture 600X with a Light Dome 150, and then I have the Amaran T2C with 45-degree grid for the hair light. This was in a tiny barn that we had to set up in, and the 150 dome is flying around like crazy. The wind was unbelievable. These wildfires spread because of wind like this. I was able to have it bagged so it didn't really fall over or wasn't a risk, and while we were doing the interviews we didn't have to contend with too much wind where it affected the shot. We went for a moody look on the fill side. The biggest issue I came across, which I'll show you, is when we were starting the interview, the rancher was sitting up, but over time he leaned in. So you can see the hair light actually working here and giving him a little bit on the shoulders, also giving a little kiss on the actual hat that he's wearing. And it looks really nice. When we go to the tight shot, you can see it even more, the hair light actually doing its job and really making a good pop and some background separation. And this is the look that I was going for. Now, a big challenge was that hat. Once you lean down, lean in, you will be getting shadows. And that light that I had set up was very low. I don't think I could have really gone lower and not affected the producer. So here's the Atomos false color LUT applied. And you can see the hair light is actually kissing the hat up top. We're getting a little bit of an edge. It's very minimal. It's not going to just pop out and stand out. I don't want it to be radioactive. And that's something really important. When you do a hair light, you want it to be an accent. You don't want it to be the key light. You don't want it to be the first thing someone notices. And if you hit the back of someone's head and they have hair on their neck or just a lot of hair down low, you don't want it to just be radioactive where the first thing you see is like, oh my gosh, what's going on back there? So you just want it to be a very subtle accent of light that brings everything out. So now we can see what happens when he's a little more leaned in and we're not getting that hair light. It is a lot darker on that side. Some people like the moodiness of it. You can see the hair light is actually hitting his shoulders still, but we're not getting the back of the head, and we are losing a little bit in the right eye due to the hat. It's something just to factor in and pay attention to. Ideally, maybe an F22C would be better because it has a better spread on it, or I could have removed the grid to get a good spread on it and just played it safe. That's just something that you have to think about. And you'll see in the later interviews that the hair light worked really well and played really well. And you can see now that there's not really much happening on the hat or the side of the face, not even on the edges when we look at the false color. Do you like the shadow side of his face now, or in the first example where the hair light was playing a little bit better? A lot of people have their own opinion on it and they prefer a certain way over other things. So let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Do you like it a little bit brighter there, or do you like it real dark and moody? And that's 100% up to you. This is our next setup. On all of these, we're using the two FX6s, one with an 85 for the tight and the other shot is a 50 mil. And the reason I did this is we couldn't go wide with the setups. I didn't have the stands to boom out the hair light enough or go really big. So I opted for more control with tighter frames. Here is our wide shot. Now you can actually see our hair light playing in this one really well. I do love the way that we motivated the windows. There is a window to camera left And that's where I put the light, and I motivated that light from camera left to be our key light. And then we have just natural fill coming in and then a hair light. And I think it looks amazing. It actually follows the contour of the cheeks and the eyes, and everything looks really good. Following the light in the scene is always a benefit when lighting a subject for interviews like this, because it's going to feel natural and it's going to play well. Here's the false color on the wide shot. You can see the hair light playing, and the way you can tell that it's actually doing its job is you are getting some darker spots. If you look from right to left, on the right it's a little bit brighter blue, and then to left it's a little darker. So it is actually playing there, but it's very subtle. Again, you barely notice it. I notice it, you notice it because we're talking about it and you can see it happening, and it just pops, does the job. We're not losing the window too much outside. I mean, I wish it could be a little bit better and, more uniform, but then we'd have to light the whole space a lot more and it require more lighting, which we didn't have. We had to switch over from the previous interview to this one fairly quickly, so we did a 180. Like I said before, motivate your natural light. Well, guess what? I just used the natural light in this one. This is being keyed from a window, and that is it. Nothing special about it. And then I have my hair light, and I have a negative fill, which is just a furniture blanket being hung up. And that gives us a little bit of negative fill to prevent the bounce from the whole room hitting on his fill side. What do you think of this one? Now, these haven't been finalized in editing, in post. I just applied a LUT to it, slight tweak, nothing crazy. And I'm going to let it go, and I will let the editor fine tune everything. But this felt so good. I mean, it was natural. I mean, there's not much that's not natural about it. The hair light, okay, we have a little bit of separation with the hair light, but that is going to be motivated by what? Lights inside the house. You're going to have overheads, so that feels natural and has a good look to it. What do you think of this setup when it comes to the fill side? Do you like the amount of negative fill we have, or should there be more? I just felt this was a really good feel. You can see the way the light is hitting the subject. I love how dark his legs are and those lower areas, because they're not getting hit by the light from outside from the window because the table is blocking it, and it kind of draws you in. And we're almost losing the windows, but we're still safe, so I'm happy with them. Could we have done better? Yes, if we had to blast them and make it super bright, but then the room would be a lot darker. So it's kind of a battle. I mean, these were quick setups. I mean, I had no time. I was all on my own. I had to do audio, video, and do the lighting all on my own. So it was quick setups. So let's go outside. This one is tough. We're outside, we're battling things. The producer wanted to shoot in this direction, so we had to go with it. And all I had for diffusion outside was a 5-in-1 ultra bounce diffusion, and we had to go with it. I put it on a stand. My stands weren't too tall because I was going compact, and this is the look that we got. Man, it looked stunning. I know some people would say, man, we should get some negative on the side. This is natural. We're outside. There's not a giant black wall next to this person. So I feel that this has a great look, and the key coming through that diffusion just looks beautiful. We're getting just enough light underneath that cowboy hat, and his eyes are popping. They're beautiful. They're bright blue, and it just looks really great. So I'm very happy with the way this turned out. Was it a challenge? Yes. But we had to move quickly. We went from the previous one with the big window to this in just moments. We had to change it up. We were going to shoot inside, and I decided against that. And I just went straight outside, and we made something happen. So sometimes just grabbing a negative or a 5-in-1 reflector bounce setup works, and you can make something happen in the situation that you have. So that's really important. And we can see the way the Atomos false color light is playing on this, so you can kind of get an idea of where light is hitting and what it's doing. I don't know what the final looks will be for this documentary when they edit out these interviews. They could be darker, they could be brighter. I just went with what I felt looked decent and looked good. So next we're going to be going into a blast in the past to this home that was from the 40s. Everything was original inside that I could see, and we had to light this to be very favorable for this young lady of 93 years old. She ranches every day. She is awesome, but we had to do something that was flattering. So I didn't want to do anything too dark on the shadow side, on the fill side. We wanted to be a little more frontal, a little more flattering in that aspect. So I went almost straight on. The space didn't allow for the 150 dome, so I had to use a light dome too because we were in a pinch and we didn't want to be in the way of the producer. So this is the look we ended up getting with the hair light. It looks amazing. So we have the hair light, the key light, and then just the natural room light that's happening in the space. Let's take a look at the spread of light with the Atomos false color applied. This is what we're looking like. Like I said before, we're doing something that's a little more frontal, that's not so much at a 45 like we're used to give us that Rembrandt look. We just went with something that was going to be better for a person with age. And I think it ended up hitting the mark pretty well. It looks good. You can see our hair light is playing right there. And then we are getting some light hitting the right side of her hair as well, creating a nice look and a good spread overall. Now, this interview was thrown on us. We weren't expecting it. We had to just roll with the same space, same setup. We couldn't really do anything crazy or change anything up. So as the next person jumped in, couldn't even change directions. The producer said, let's roll with it. This is what we're doing. We don't have time. And I just let it roll. So on this one, you do see a little bit of light on the cheek of the subject, the right side, the fill side. And what that is a window that's opened up and it's hitting the subject there. I didn't let it play on the previous subject as much. We had it in there and I kind of adjusted it because it was creating a harsh line just because of the way it was hitting. So I tried avoiding it. But here I think it plays really well. Again, we're going with a flat look. The hair is lit up. Everything is popping. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing too complex about this setup. It is flat. I understand, guys. You would have done something that's more moody, this, that. We had no time. We wanted to be flattering, and we went for a more flat beauty look. Now, in other circumstances, we could do other things, but in this situation, we went with this type of setup because that's what the producer and I agreed upon after seeing the setup and after seeing the shots and the framing. Now, how many of you guys dislike a flat look? Probably everyone. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I would make it more stylized or this or that. And that's just circumstance. You can do that. And in some situations it works, but not in all situations. So that's something to consider is you can't always make it look a certain way. There's a lot of people that will come. And this is actually our first setup we did. We weren't even expecting an interview when we were there. We were dropping off a load of feed and we had one of the volunteers that was delivering feed all the way from the DFW area to the Panhandle. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8 hour drive, depending on where you're at or what side of Texas you're in. With a 5-in-1 diffusion, we're able to save the day again and get some beautiful lighting. I think the background is exposed pretty well for what we did, and sometimes the diffusion makes it too dark on the subject, so we have to bring up the levels, and then the background gets blown out. But I think this looks pretty good, and just for a diffusion, I'll take it. You can see how the light is hitting, how it's spreading and looks overall. I'm really satisfied with the way it came out, and I'm really impressed. And it was one of those things that just happened. Hey, let's get this set up. Let's hurry up. Let's see what we can get. I don't care. The content is more important than the look of the frame is what the producer said. And we're able to capture it. The ranchers in the Panhandle have been hit really hard and they really need help. So if you have the time, go into the description, click on some links, learn about what's going on. And if you're able to contribute, if you're in a position to contribute $1, $2, $5, throw some money their way, help them get through this tough time. And thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.